All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I'm excited. Yeah, it sounds like we have a bunch of things to demo. And thanks for joining again, Santiago. I know we talked last time about you demoing some of the EAS DLT asset. Is that something you're comfortable queuing up towards the end?
Yeah, I mean, there were some changes made by Javi. Maybe he can explain them better than I can. But I worked with the dataset and did a query that I showed Carl, and maybe I can show that too.
Great. Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. All right. Well, maybe I'm just going to go in order of how I wrote it in the doc. But I'll give Santiago a little bit more time to get set up. Maybe we could start with CC if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Let me share my screen.
Floor is yours.
Give me a sec. Okay, are you seeing this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Cool. So, first of all, an intro on me. I'm CC. I'm a designer. I have joined at the beginning of this month to support with some design work. And my first mini task here was to do some very quick visual updates to the homepage. I've done that last week or the week before, just tidying things up. Really, there's not a lot changed here, and yeah, I've carried on working on a bigger update to the visual language, the graphic design of this homepage, which you can see here in Figma. So this is my latest working design in Figma, and I've just introduced this graphic language kind of based on the logo for the Open Source Observer, and I've taken into considerations how the visual language of the Open Source Observer fits in or works together, sits nicely together with the main Kyriba brand. So that's something I'm considering as I do this redesign. And yeah, I've just been working with lots of very flat graphics, keeping the color palette in the same direction. Also not really moving the fonts so far, but I'm considering it. And yeah, if we, I'm feeling almost ready to get to bringing these graphics into the homepage. At the moment, I'm just going through many different iterations of this. So just really explaining visually these different topics of the homepage and giving some graphic language into the Open Source Observer. So I'm probably a few days away from implementing this and open to some final comments on this before I go ahead and bring it into.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm like I like them. I'm sure you guys have already discussed this while I was gone last week, but I like the middle two where you're basically. It seems like, tell me if this is the right interpretation. You're trying to like combine the visual language of the graphics with like things that kind of evoke different visualizations that like we might typically be using. Like the second one kind of looks like you're playing off of a bar chart, or like the third one kind of looks like you're playing off of like different curves that you see in a data visualization. So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Exactly. Trying to bring in a data visualization feeling to it, and actually using this graphic language for data visualization is something we can do also, and that's something I mean, here this is not a real infographic or a graphic data visualization, but here we can actually bring in something like that. So this is obviously just a placeholder at the moment, but that's the plan. And yeah, if you have any thoughts on something that would fit well here with this type of visualization, then send it over to me and I will do my best to bring it in.
Yeah, I think our Carl's Jupyter notebooks and blog posts might be the richest place to kind of farm different possible visualizations. I'm curious for the fourth and fifth sections. Where was the plan to stick with kind of these sphere circular design, or will there also be some kind of other visualization themed graphic there? I couldn't tell what's work in progress versus what's
these are not, these are more so just based on the logo graphic language that I'm bringing into the homepage. It's not so much data visualization on these sections. I'm open to that, but at the moment this is just graphic details that we've got in these sections. This one I think is the most work in progress here. I did have a different version of this over here somewhere. Something like this that I could use in there also. But yeah, if there's different ideas of infographic styles that I could be bringing in for this section, Explore, Connect, Integrate, then I'm happy to bring that in. This public goods data pipeline. This will be the footer coming in here. So I'm not really looking at data visualization for this section. I just really want to focus on these three titles: open source, open data, open infrastructure, and get people clicking on these if they want to explore more.
This is more of an FYI, but I'm about to file this issue. I would love to actually flesh out more landing pages that actually describe what we do. I think if you go to our page right now, this is a step up from what we had before, which is close to nothing, just a splash page. But I think even with this, just from from an information perspective, I think it's still pretty sparse compared to what you would typically find in home pages or landing pages or things like that. And so I have a couple ideas of additional pages, not this. We can leave, and I'm not trying to disrupt the stuff that you're doing, but additional pages talking about either features or case studies or things that you would typically find in a homepage. I might start wiring up just basic content, and then we can visually adjust it later. But just more of an FYI for you that I'm hoping to actually add more pages with more content.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And I could also maybe do some landing page template designs for things like that. If you want to have multiple different topics on landing pages, then we can find a way of creating those really quickly and easily. Just with some graphics and a simple information section in the center. But yeah, send that content to me whenever you have it, and I'm happy to have a look.
Sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, this looks good. I'm excited for a refresh.
Thank you.
Javi,
stop sharing now.
How's your mic?
Hello, is it working?
Yes. Awesome.
I'm going to show my screen. Okay, well, hello, I'm Javi. I'm new as well. It's my first month here. I'm basically doing everything related to data ops with Ruben. I'm testing some architecture, mainly working in Daxter and slowly moving to DBT to have like a full tour of the architecture. So I want to show you three things today. The first one I want to show you is that I've been mainly working on Daxter concurrency. So basically, because the way that DLT works, we are not able to run the same pipeline with different datasets at the same time, because they're using some tables which are metadata, which have concurrency issues, and they just don't work. So we had to come up with a clever way of fixing this. So basically, I did some things. To start off, I created this PR, which basically creates schedules that materialize partitions dynamically. So it's super simple how it works. Basically, we have all of the schedules here, which get passed into Daxter here. So basically, it's just an array with all of the elements. And this partition schedules function, what it does is it dynamically creates a new job and filters all of the partitions that have not been materialized, and then it executes them with a run request on Sundays. So why is this a big deal? So basically, this allows us to have dynamic jobs apart from assets, so you don't have to create one entry for all of them, which are fully integrated with our DLT factory. So basically, just by creating a function, let's say, for example, in Open Collective and annotating it with the @DLT factory, we get this functionality without having to add nothing extra. So if contributors in the future use this pattern to build a factory, they will have all of this already set up for them. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing I wanted to show you is basically that I've been working on the DBT models for Open Collective. So basically, I created the sources, which is just to tell them, well, I'm going to put also test project, so I can test it without doing nothing in production. And here we have the staging sources. So the staging sources just basically take all of the data from the Open Collective deposits table in BigQuery. Then we have this events table, which just merges all of the two, because we are getting one from expenses and one from deposits to avoid having to repeat the code. And then we are merging this into the event table. So the event table is basically a place where we have all of the events. That's why it's called the universal event table. And we have, like GitHub comments, GitHub issues. We have different events from different blockchains. And then I've added this one here, which basically gets all of the events from Open Collective. So now what I can do is dbt run select, and I can use this one. So what this will do is it will get all of the data in event.sql. So what this will do is get all of the data, compile the SQL, all the macros, everything, and put it in BigQuery. So it's around 2 gigs for the test source. So it's like some data. So now if we go to BigQuery, when this is done, we are able to get the events which are parsed with this structure, so then they can be consumed by the marts. So that's how I am integrating all of the data. And last but not least, I created something cool. So basically, some time ago, when a failure happened in Daxter, there was a webhook we use in our Discord channel that only sent a link. And I think this was far from ideal, because imagine being on mobile. When you click on the mobile link, Daxter does not have a really good UI for mobile. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and create something cool. So basically, this is rendered on the fly. This is the last digits of the ID. And then it gives some information, such as the name of the asset that failed, why it failed, the steps.
Oh, and you're not sharing the thing here on your screen right now, Javi.
Oh, I'm sharing.
We're only on your VS Code. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I think it's cool, so I want people to see it. Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to see it now, right?
It's taking a second for me. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I was talking about. So basically, as you can see here, this is rendered on the fly. So basically, it gets some information for the asset, and then this is sent to Discord every time something fails. So the benefits we get from this is that you don't have to open the Daxter UI on mobile, which is a little bit lacking, and you get all of the information from one side. This is really cool because if you are doing some testing in production and maybe something fails, you are able to say, okay, this alert is maybe what I was expecting. So you're able to see. And it wasn't super hard. So basically what I had to do for this is I created a new, I created a new alert manager, which was basically following the structure. I modified a little bit the classes, and with Pillow, which is the library I'm using to draw this, I just got the image from the open source observer, and yeah, just draws and sends it to GitHub. And last but not least, as an extra, because we were talking about this before, Ray, so basically this is a schema from the Open Collective API. So here, what I can do is, So here, what I'm using this command is I'm using the Apollo CLI to download the schema to opencollective.json. So basically, the opencollective.json file is this huge file that has, as you said, all the data. So I created this quick script, which is run a main.ts that, oopsies, I have to pass the opencollective.json. So as you can see here, this is creating all of the classes dynamically, which then I can put in, for example, in this file, and I get all of the structures on the fly. So basically, this allows us to, like, as you say, do everything dynamic and not have to rely on someone copy-pasting from the docs. So this is something that we should definitely explore in the future.
Yeah, I think this is super
That's
cool.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I was thinking for this factory, is like you just, similar to what we did for BigQuery DTS, you just pass in a config, and it'll just automatically introspect, similar to what we'd expect for Hasura or any of these other like automatic introspection tooling, and just crawl everything. So this, yeah, super cool. I had a question about the alert manager. I'm curious, would it be difficult to also just have copy pastable text in the alert, or is there a reason we wanted to stick to images? Is there like a limitation with Discord?
No. I think that in the end, I was kind of copying the links that, for example, GitHub sends. So, for example, you're sharing info about the repository, you see the image with like the code languages, the name of the repo. So I wanted to sort of like keep that vibe, but it's pretty simple to add more stuff. So here, let me see where it's go. This is Canvas Discord alert manager here. So it's pretty simple. So basically, here at the end, it would be as simple as like adding a new field here. So here's where I said the oops text. So I could add more data saying, so this is like the error if you want to like copy it. So yeah, it's pretty trivial to add. So if you want to add that, it's super simple.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sounds customizable, so you don't have to add it now. I was just curious if there was like
awesome.
Any limitations. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
Cool. Anyone else have any other questions?
No.
I had one more question about the concurrency thing that you did in the beginning. You were saying that you built it into the DLT factory. So
yes.
Am I understanding that as long as you use the DLT factory, it will properly partition and namespace like the way that DLT stores state, so that you can run like parallel jobs or parallel partitions now? Is that?
Yes, that is correct. So basically, we're using a combination of quite some stuff. Let me show you. So this is the DLT. Yep. Okay, so how this works is a combination of tags and Dagster config in the Kubernetes cluster. So basically, when you create using this function, which is the DLT factory decorator, you get some arguments. And one of them is it's called partitions def. So this means that the user supplied a partition definition, which is what is causing the issue for concurrent runs. So if this happens, what we're doing here is we're adding some special tags. We're adding an extra tag with telling Dagster like, hey, this is partitioned, and we are adding an unique tag regarding the key prefix string and the asset name. This will be added to the asset itself here, and then Dagster will pick it up and say, okay, in the configuration, this is dagster.yaml. Here, okay, so here this will check for the Dagster concurrency key, and it will apply the limit of one concurrent run when the different value changes. So if we are like running with Dagster concurrency key as the key and Open Collective as the value, but then we're running also as Ethereum attestation service as the value, it will launch only one per run, which is basically the desired behavior. So yeah, if you use this factory, it will work.
Yeah. So we in fixing all of this stuff, I actually also with Javi we found the way to make all of basically these tags to work using a different setup with Dagster. So actually now there are quite a few different ways to this also helped fix the pipeline in general, but you can launch to quote a standard cluster, the spot cluster, or a preemptible one for any specific job. And so this allowed all of this to happen and for us to control the concurrency as well. But basically, yeah, like the reliability, the Dagster, and the cost management is a lot cleaner now. So
what's the difference between a spot cluster and a preemptible cluster? Isn't the spot
cluster preemptible? So I don't actually think we should ever use the preemptible one. They're available for use, but if anything, because Google actually now says don't use preemptible. So, it for a time preemptible was the thing to use, which was they would give you an instance for about up to 24 hours, and then they would kill it after 24 hours. But I mean, you could use it for shorter, but it was at a fixed price at 30% the cost of a normal instance.
And the standard cluster is on-demand instances?
Yes, exactly. Standard's on demand.
Okay. And there's a way to specify which cluster I want?
That a specific asset. Yeah, exactly. So using the Javi's looking at it right now. So this pod spec config, all you got to do is put this on as a tag. The parent tag. Yeah, it's great. So you could just specify. You can even specify the container types, which is also something that we needed to do for the Open Collective work.
Is this documented anywhere?
It is documented at Dagster. The Dagster has these documented. We were just missing a component because the Dagster docs were unclear at one point for how to make sure that your infrastructure can accept those tags. Because it said, you can use these tags, and we tried previously, and it just didn't work.
These are Dagster standard tags.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in their documentation.
It's in their documentation. So we tried at some point to make them work, before Javi got here. I tried, and then they didn't work previously. And then, randomly I had I was poking around as we were debugging this, and I was like, "Hey, Javi, I think I figured this out." And then it all ended up working for him. So
cool. Yep. And just to triple check and clarify, it's not DLT. My understanding of this, in the way you set it up, is that DLT still has is fundamentally not parallelizable. And so the only thing that we're really doing here is that when we specify partitions, when we specify multiple assets, the way that we interpret this tag is that it limits the concurrency globally to one and single threads. It's not that we're partitioning the DLT state in a way that enables parallel runs of DLT, right?
Yeah, you're right, Ray. So basically, I was speaking with their engineers, and apparently the issue that we are facing is that DLT uses some extra tables in BigQuery to keep state, and basically they were overwriting themselves. So I was talking with them, and they gave me no solution but this. Basically this is what's happening, that they are trying to write state at the same time. It's causing a racing condition, and it's losing some data. So this was something that we decided it was the way to go forward.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. So I just want to double check. But yeah, thanks. We are on the leading edge.
You're welcome.
Yeah, apparently, Javi asked the question right at the moment that they decided they no longer wanted to give support to the community or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, one-on-one support. It was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it was really unlucky.
Yeah.
Well, presumably you could always pay for support, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we really needed to solve it, but yeah.
It's not surprising. It's
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
it is a lot of work doing things for free for people that are ungrateful. I don't blame them. Cool. Yeah, Reuven, curiously, you mind showing the double rolling window thing?
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. I guess. Let's see. Oh man. Way too much on the screen right now. Actually, let's just go to a VS Code. All right. So, yeah, I don't have an exact example of how the double rolling window yet, but we can go over in general kind of how that all works. So what we've done with SQL Mesh, well, first of all, let's look at the new style of the factory. So if you look at the factory, I'm gonna close this window on the left. Oh yeah, don't save that was notes for something. Okay, so these time series metrics looks pretty similar to what we had previously. So basically, you define the metric, the file used for the query, and then which specific aggregations. But now you can also have a rolling aggregation. And you can specify different windows, like 30, 60, 90. And then one thing you can do, so let's say I wanted to depend on like contributors classifications for whatever reason. Changes. I can also specify, so the metric query def, the way this works, it assumes that the unit for this rolling window is some kind of like day or month or whatever, but it can actually just be something arbitrary, because it's only really is just passed in as a parameter to your query. So windows, so we can just say 2, actually, unit quarter. And then you can cron this at any, like, let's just say monthly. So some explanation is required. I realize. Give me a second. I'm just gonna pretend that this exists. Get the red out of there. So the way that this would work, basically, you can. Yeah, so using the unit, I can just look back like at 2 different quarters and depend on this contributor's classification. So basically, what it will ensure, what time series metrics will ensure is that this gets done first, as long as there's a reference to contributor classifications inside contributor classification changes.
Wow.
So then you can do anything you want against like it'll give you the values like of your window, so like how much to look back. So yeah, you can just use that to query based on the previous metric. There might be some additional things we might need there, so if we if you need the exact dates or something, that maybe that's something that I need to actually implement, but I will double check when I actually make that example. But that's generally how this all works. And then the cron is how often that you want this materialized. So for time aggregations like daily, weekly, monthly, they just happen daily, weekly, and monthly. But for rolling windows, you can choose to have them aggregate at any point in time. So, you could look at this every day, but for a rolling window that's looking at the last 2 quarters of some other dependency, it's probably not going to change. It's only going to change depending on like this cron. So if this cron is set to daily, then you can run this daily, but you wouldn't be able to say run it hourly. But also, I would not suggest running anything hourly. That's probably just going to be way too much data for us, at least for right now.
Does this
but yeah,
support arbitrary tree? Like, there's nothing that would limit me from doing not just 2 layers, but 3 layers or 4 layers or 5 layers.
Yeah, it's
but
completely arbitrary. Yeah.
Oh,
completely
cool.
arbitrary tree. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. At some point, I would love to do a very, very deep dive. I might do like a Loom to do a very deep dive of exactly how we accomplished all this, but actually not might. I will do a Loom before I go on vacation, so that way, if you or Javi or anyone needs to debug this, they can. So, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah.
This totally deserves a blog post. I feel like I'm curious, have you seen other folks do this?
No, I haven't seen other folks do something like this at all. Like, so Cube doesn't support anything like this. I was looking, or I was, I was trying to see if things like Looker did this or anything. Yeah, so this is actually something fairly unique to us, I actually think. So,
does DBT Metric Flow support anything like this?
Definitely not, actually. Yeah, so even doing like the kinds of rolling windows that we do, I don't know how to do that with Metric Flow. I was looking at the documentation and it didn't. If it's there, it's not very clear to me.
Yeah. No, this is cool. I feel like this is super cool. To totally deserve a blog post.
I do think we are like one step away from taking this to be like metrics flow competitor, like within reach, like in terms of like making actually having some understanding of the table. Because I realized it wasn't actually like, it's just it's just shortest path, like graph algorithm stuff, right? So it's actually once I have the table of all the columns and their lineage and their relationships. So yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. So that's a big one. I mean, one thing, one other thing maybe that I can show as well. After this is probably just we're just gonna look at green check marks so I can feel good about myself. Hold on one second. Streaming. So we ended up doing quite a bit of work to fix the sources pipeline. So there were some things failing because some of the things that we had been changing around with like spot instances and certain unreliability like issues related, I think partially related to that, and some of the things we just needed for the open collective like concurrency issues. So just really, really, really quick. But it should. I'm just gonna do the whole screen. But yeah, so as you can see now, a lot of green check marks here. Oh, I'm gonna get overrun with this. So, okay. So the materialized source asset jobs actually completely succeeds. The last run on September 23rd. So, but the way we were able to do this, so all green check marks, which makes me feel really great. For a while, this was actually all red. So, at some point early last week. But we have Arbitrum, we have all of these other sources now. It should be functioning a little bit more cleanly. There's some issues I added for like basically doing, better retrying mechanisms later on in the future. But for now, I think this is good where it is. But part of the changes that we made was to make sure that some of these get scheduled onto reliable infrastructure. And so that was, in thanks to some of the debugging that Javi and I were doing, that's how we were able to accomplish this. So, yeah. And that's it.
Let's just say, like, for this blog post, I think it'd be great to, in addition to the deep dive, like, be able to also take one step back and talk about, like, at least be able to describe at a high level, like what it is that we were trying to achieve and why the different components were necessary. Because there's so many layers to this, right? It's like step one, you couldn't just write like a single DBT model. That's how we that's how we started. And you had to create these like parameterized generated models for these rolling windows to kind of iterate, right? And then in addition to that, you have these like mechanisms for rolling windows, and then in addition to that, you have this mechanism for like understanding the topology of dependencies, and then like computing in a particular order. Like there's all these different layers to the problem, but like being able to motivate why each of these layers is important, like for layman isn't even the right word, like even for a technical audience, understanding at a high level would be super useful. In our most recent call with Jonas, he's a smart guy. Like there's no reflection on him, but he was like, well, time series, like how hard could time series be? Like why can't you just like time series it? Like don't you already have the models? And it's like I think it's like there's so many layers of complexity to this that you seem to have absorbed into your,
it is definitely not, the Unix model. It does do everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fine that like this factory thing does everything, but like to be able to motivate like why you made different design decisions at different components of what it does is
definitely
would be reasoning to.
I mean, without shit talking too much, I definitely want to talk about like existing tools as well and why we had to build something here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems like probably the best metric to showcase would be the Liben chart, right? And so
I think so. Right. Yeah.
Basically say, here's a normal metric that a lot of businesses will have, and then here's like the derivative of that, and here's a second derivative, and that's why we had to do this. And here's the chart that you get coming out the other side. Obviously, I can only help with the last part.
Yep. It's useful because it's like a very intuitively, obviously useful metric to understand.
Right.
The number of part-time developers that become full-time developers. Like that sounds easy, but there's actually quite a few number of layers to computing.
Yeah. I mean, and one thing we can do with the tool that others wouldn't be able to do is like you could quite literally run that comparison daily for for those two rolling windows, like so you could see the change like in change over time, right? Like it's very interesting that way.
Yeah, like we could have future metrics that are not velocity but acceleration, right? And
exactly.
Like that. And be able to measure acceleration and time travel to any point in time. Like all these things are pretty incredible. So yeah, I think I know we've all sounded very impatient for this for some time, but we do appreciate your service.
Only me.
No. I mean, I've been impatient for it. I want it to just work, Yeah.
But still, it's like it's not to understate just how cool this is. Like I think we totally should brag about it when we feel comfortable.
Let's brag.
Cool.
Cool, Carl. Yeah, you want to show us what you've been doing for the Sunny Awards? Can you help explain? Could you help explain the what's the nice way to say it? The complexity behind this program.
Yeah, I actually just recorded a podcast on it as well, so that will be coming out soon. For those of you who want it explained more eloquently than I'll probably do right now, let me share my screen. Ooh. Sorry, wait a sec. I think Discord just changed its sharing. Okay.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it took me a minute to find it today too. Yeah, but it's just on the public voice.
Wow.
That thing.
So difficult. All right. Let me try again. Share my screen. Entire screen. Share this screen. My goodness, it's like 5 clicks to get it. All right, can you see?
I did not see anything.
Not yet.
No?
All right, let's try that again. Share.
Yeah.
Share my entire screen. Wow.
We could skip ahead to Santiago real quick if you need some more time. Santiago, you ready to show your DLT stuff?
I think I am. If I don't
Awesome.
have any trouble sharing my screen.
Sharing like everyone else.
Oh, no, Carl just
Oh.
did it, right?
Oh, we
No,
got
you,
both.
Did
you
Did it
can
work
start.
now?
Yeah, it did work, Carl.
Okay. Yeah, talk about a bad UI. It's like 5 or 6 things you have to click. All right. So the Sunny Awards is a.
Sorry, Carl,
Wait,
your
wait,
screen
hold on. Did
What?
you turn it off again? Yeah.
I didn't.
It like.
Sorry. All right, why don't you go, Santi?
Let me share again. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so after listening to you guys, this is like pretty basic stuff, I think. But it was really hard for me because I'm practically like starting like from zero because I come from a marketing background. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Carl because he did like a very detailed scoping of what he wanted, and he gave me like a lot of really cool examples that Javi made and he made of some Python code, and that was like really helpful to understand what I was doing and to have something like based on that. And in general, like guiding me through the process. And so basically what I did was like copy most of the logic from Javi's Open Collective Daxter asset. So I think it's pretty like simple. All of this was also like added after I committed. No, how do you say? After I tried the pull request by Javi because of the concurrency issues that I don't really understand. But yeah, basically it's just like a simple asset. I had it like also copy the partition definition, like weekly partition. And basically what it does is just get you define the how do you say it? The query you want from the API. And yeah, I just like search for the attestation and variables, and I just put them there. I just switch them up, and yeah, so basically that's what it does. And after that, I did a simple query. The idea was to have like I think 5 different metrics, but unfortunately, right now I just have one because the basic one is like having the number of attestations of each project. So I just grabbed the data from BigQuery, and I put it in a data frame, and I had to do some merging because the data to count to get the name of the project, it wasn't like in the attestation. So I had to like in the attestation schema there was like a variable called metadata. So I had to also get it from like a request, and also Carl helped me with that. And after all that, this is like the chart I constructed. As you can see, a lot of the requests failed to get the name of the projects. So I think that's basically like a problem with the input while creating the attestation. I think that they're still like experimenting with this is from the Metrics Garden project that tries to get attestation from open source projects. So yeah, basically right now it's just like it's very little data. So I don't know how much time they're going to have to create this more number of attestations, but yeah, I think once we have more attestations, this will get populated, and we'll have better insights, I think. I don't know, Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's great, actually. There was an update this morning, and the thing I'm pushing them to do is to standardize the metadata. And you're obviously showing what happens when you don't standardize the metadata. So yeah, this is great. It's like it's an excellent end-to-end illustration of what can be done with the attestation data.
Yeah, I think it's pretty early, so they'll probably get that solved. And also, I wanted to show you, Carl, that let me see, where is it? Oh yeah, I think it's here, because I know it's not here. It's this one. So for the reviews, they have, like, in the metadata, they also have another column with JSON if they review it, like feeling if it didn't exist, and they have like a rating of 1 to 3.
Right.
But there's a lot of attestations that also don't have that data point. So I don't know if I should. I can do the query, but yeah, if this one doesn't have like the names, maybe this one will even have less like data. But yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, my guess is that right now they're probably just testing different.
Yeah.
And so hopefully soon they will get rid of this one, stop using it, and switch with one that they actually have a consistent metadata schema for. But that's great. Yeah, it's all coming together. And just, as you said, which I think is really cool, Santi not only was able to connect the new data source, but then he was able to follow the tutorials to get connected to the data, set up a playground, start querying, and then even like enriching the data through requests. So it's pretty cool seeing that kind of end to end.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. Oh, sorry.
No, it's
clarify.
it's me, right?
Is this running in Daxter right now, or is this like in your own GCP project?
Which part?
Is the DLT data fetching like populating some open source observer like data set in our Daxter pipeline, or is the BigQuery that you're querying here separate?
The Daxter asset I show you that is actually happening on Daxter. But then the query I did like from the metadata is just here in the Google Colab script.
Yeah, the Ethereum attestation service is indeed running and it's materializing, and yeah, it's on our BigQuery. So yeah, that's working.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I appreciate what Carl's saying now. Like, it is cool to see this end to end.
Yeah. There's one remaining piece. So most attestations, not all, they will have a pointer to some kind of URI, and then you grab additional data from that. So what Santi's showing here is some data that I think it's on Pinata or something. So he's kind of parsing the JSON, and then looking at there it is, exactly, hitting the URL and grabbing whatever JSON object comes back from that.
I would also, I would be curious, Santi, if you don't mind sharing any feedback on your experience contributing, at end to end. I imagine there were a lot of things that you got stuck on, and I'd love to improve the documentation if there's things that you got stuck on that could have used some clarification.
Well, I think in general I found every information I needed. Obviously I had trouble, but I don't think it's like with the documentation per se. It's more like with my lack of knowledge about like, this was super helpful to understand like DLT and DBT because like there's a lot of like moving pieces, and I had to understand like how everything worked. But yeah, I'm still like having trouble understanding like factories and how how that works specifically like on open source. But yeah, I managed to gather all the resources, and I didn't know anything about it. So I imagine that's like a good thing for the documentation. And I also got a lot of help from ChatGPT. So that's the benefits of working nowadays with artificial intelligence.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, if there's anything, that you have any feedback on in the future, please, even if it's like helping explain how the different moving parts fit fit together, I think having fresh eyes is super valuable in helping us improve the documentation.
Yeah, sure. If I see anything, but in general, I would say it was pretty good experience.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, this is super cool.
All right, I'm still trying to share my screen.
Oh no.
I don't understand why I can't do this.
Do you want me to share something for you?
I have a lot of stuff. Let me just see. Let me just try disconnecting and retrying. Sec.
Okay. How was everyone's weekend?
Good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of hiking.
Oh, nice.
Hey
Yeah.
Ruben, have you gone to the Cuba de Cuba, the restaurant?
Oh, shoot, I have not. Yeah. Your girlfriend's dad owns that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever
Oh,
want
no, yeah, I
Cuban
should
food,
try. Yeah. It's not
you can
far
go.
from me.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting a new prompt now. I didn't get it previously.
Oh, hey.
Hey, I'm back.
Hello.
Oh, it's working.
All right. Yeah. Apparently, there's some new update I needed to make.
The Sunnies.
All right, so I'll do this quick. The Sunnies is like the Oscars of on-chain building. It's an award show which will be happening in October. It brings together 13 different OP-Stack networks, including a number that we have not started indexing yet. But fortunately, they don't have many apps, so we can probably just grab the data manually. And there are a number of different categories. And what we're helping them do is create metrics for projects in each of those categories. So right now, there's about 200 projects that have applied, and we put together some initial sets of metrics for those projects. We have users over the kind of on-chain summer period, and then preceding that, we have transactions, we have daily actives, we have Farcaster, and then depending on the category the product is in, this is like a DeFi one, there'll be some category-specific metrics. There's also ones that are being built for creators, that could be like NFT creators, and then other is going to be Farcaster frames and channels. So pretty all-encompassing. Not all of the data that we need to do this is available on Open Source Observer. So most of the on-chain stuff we're grabbing from our existing models. Some of the other stuff we do have data on, at least for Farcaster. The creator piece, we've had to go to some other sources like Flipside and Dune and run some queries there. And then there's some kind of token-specific ones that I'm also grabbing from third-party sets. So a lot of the past 2 weeks have been trying to work with the different partners as the products come in and help get the metrics stood up for everyone who's coming in. But it's kind of cool seeing this all come together, and there's a lot of marketing and products for advertising a lot. So
is this a in-person like award show?
No, it'll be a live stream.
Okay. I was like, wow, are they straight up doing the Oscars? Full on comedian host. Yeah.
But there's going to be like an MC, and then there'll be a person who presents the DeFi category and a person who presents the art marketplace category, and so on. And cool. The metrics are more to help them come up with good rewards. So for instance, it could be like the fastest growing DEX on Mode, or the meme coin with the most Farcaster users. So that's the Sunnies. The other thing that I will share is that Retrofunding 5 has just finished the sign-up process. And so we've been working to create some GitHub-based metrics together with the team from OpenRank. The metrics we'll be using are some pretty basic repo level things like the number of contributors, stars, forks. And then the twist that we're doing is actually creating a developer rank across the Optimism ecosystem. And so what we've done is we've seeded it based on some of the kind of main repos that the core developers there said have been most impactful. And so we've identified people who've made different types of contributions to those repos and then extended that to their developer graph. Use that to create a ranking of all the developers in the ecosystem. And then we have some derived metrics that come from that data set. The first one is like a trusted star. So if you have a star that has come from one of the top 500 or so developers, that counts as a trusted star. And then you have a overall weighting of your stars that are trust weighted. So if 100% of your stars came from the 500 or so high trust developers, you'd have a score of 1. If all of your stars are coming from low trust people, then you would have a very low trust weighted stars. So it's kind of cool seeing these come together. I would actually say that these kind of trust weightings are a really interesting counterweight to the more kind of, just standard how many stars you have or these kind of outright metrics, and definitely seem to align a lot more with, as you'd expect, contributions that are most impactful within the narrower ecosystem of Optimism, as opposed to like broader Ethereum.
Cool. Are you guys planning on writing a blog post around the novel metrics?
My dad was even pushing me to do that, so yeah, it'll be coming.
Your dad?
He said, "I follow your blog, and it's been a month since you guys have written anything. What's the deal?"
Well, I think cool. Like the insight that you just shared, which is like, the common complaint about naive metrics is that they're, easily gameable. I think like this is a really interesting derivative that isn't that much more complicated, given the data that we already have.
Right.
But like tease out some of those interesting,
Yeah.
It's an interesting insight. It's worth sharing.
Yeah, so for instance, like the number one contribution here is something with only maybe 10 stars or something, but it's test and productions work on the OP Aragon fork.
Oh.
Cool, right?
Yeah.
The next thing that I'll share is not my work. It's by Rohit, who unfortunately couldn't join us, but he's been helping us with the Thank Arbitrum impact analysis. And he has basically created a little app that walks through some of the developer metrics for its 54 projects that have been part of the Thank Arb grantee collection. So Rohit has been a member of the Regen Data community. He used to work at Gitcoin. Maybe you came across him, CC. But he's always been following along and has an interest in data work. And so he basically kind of went through the docs, has started adding and updating projects in OSS directory, and then getting the data and using that to create his own notebooks. And he turned one of the notebooks into a interactive web app. So this is basically a set of projects. You have some kind of standard metrics like commits and pull requests and so on. And he created a index which provides some kind of weighting of the type of activity. And then he also plots this. So this is, kind of project activity per developer. And then down over here, he kind of takes this index and shows it across a time series, which is cool to see.
Yeah, this is super cool.
Cool.
And so, is the expected output like just an analysis or a report or a dashboard like this, or are there other things that like the ThankArb folks are looking for?
He's working directly with ThankArb on their requirements. And so they're having kind of weekly meetings and discussing what's coming in and tweaking it. So I would say that he's kind of doing the role that I've historically done, say, with the Optimism retrofunding people and trying to craft a set of metrics based on feedback. And obviously he's, keeping me in the loop, and I help with troubleshooting, but it's pretty awesome to see him basically, go through the docs, work completely independently to do some pretty high level analysis on an ecosystem.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the support?
That is really cool.
Yeah. What's that?
The support look like? Is it predominantly like async over Telegram? Is it like office hours? Is it like, I'm curious just like what the support structure looks like.
Yeah, I would say actually these days the most support is just reviewing pull requests and validating and merging them. Yep.
That's
Awesome.
I mean, admittedly, the development activities are pretty basic right now, and he's been blocked on getting the Arbitrum data flowing. So now that is unblocked, I'm guessing there'll be some more support required. But he's been able to follow the notebooks. He's been able to, go through the docs and get everything going, which is cool.
One of the things that's like most exciting about, and what feels palpably different about what you're demoing today relative to say a quarter ago, is like, in every single one of these you are working with some partner, whether it's OpenRank or Rohit or whoever else to like to produce the artifacts or the outputs that these different partners are looking for. I'm curious, like in this most recent phase of work that you've done, like have you been able to take a step back and translate any of what you felt like was missing in our pipeline or our docs or whatever? I can already think of like 2 or 3, right? Just like watching you do your thing. Like one is like, would it be helpful for us to be able to have like Python models in either SQL Mesh or dbt to be able to calculate, OpenRank in our actual pipeline? Would that be helpful? Like, are there data sources that would be helpful that you currently are manually getting from Flipside or Dune that we could easily incorporate into our pipeline? I don't know. Like, I'm sure you have a list of these things. Like, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I think that there's probably 3 things. So the first one is just better documentation on our schemas, and like kind of examples of how to use the schema, then get a query and so on. Like, people are lazy. They just want to copy paste something, get the result back and inspect it themselves. So that's definitely number 1. Number 2, I think there's just some work around, like OSS directory still has a lot of issues, and a lot of the validation work is pretty low level, just helping kind of read through the logs. And so it's like making the logs a bit more verbose or explain what to do. I would also say that maybe even having some way of like having an LLM that can auto correct or auto generate the YAML based on some information. This is actually something that Rohit wants to work on, because he was just literally prompting ChatGPT or one of the LLMs to like clean up his files. So he might give us something. But that because that is like the first point of entry for many contributors, it's kind of interesting just seeing where the friction is. But then like after that, I would love to have a few like expanded playground data sets, and then models where you can like pip install OSO OpenRank, and you can test the model and then tweak it the way that you like, and then boom, you're able to generate rankings across an entire collection or however. Like having different algorithms available would be awesome.
I think abstractly that makes sense, but I just sharing that I can't visualize it the way that I'm sure it's like visceral for you right now. Like while it's fresh in your head, I think it'd be awesome for you to enumerate all of these into GitHub issues somewhere. Like I think it, right now, like you went through this pain, so you probably have like the clearest idea of like what's missing. And if you have like even sample prescriptions of how we can help alleviate these pain points, it'd be great to get your thoughts on that. like before you forget.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I live and breathe it, so I won't forget, but certainly.
Well, I mean, if these things are actually important, then we should start prioritizing them into the spring. And unless you write it down, we won't know how to help you.
Certainly. Well, yeah, I think the documentation around schemas and stuff like that is probably the most important one to do first, because everybody hits that block.
Yep.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end, right?
Yeah, we're actually a little bit over time, so cool.
Well done, everybody.